Welcome to the Frontline, where history comes to life. Night in Saint-Domingue, 1791. No calm, no lead-in, just darkness, rain, and drums echoing across the cane fields. Lightning cracks across the sky, lighting up rows of sugar cane like bayonets. Enslaved men and women crouch between the stalks, whispering in low voices, passing news plantation to plantation. Stories of France, of rights, of chaos, of a world cracking open somewhere across the ocean. A storm rolls over the northern plain while the most profitable colony on earth sleeps in fear. In the great houses, planters drink and argue about the revolution. Some toast liberty while their overseers crack whips outside. Some shout that Paris has lost its mind. Others say nothing at all. They know the ground beneath their boots is turning dangerous. Tension thickens in the air like smoke. In the boiling houses, enslaved workers shovel cane into furnaces that burn hotter than hell. The air is a wall of heat. A single slip and a man falls in. No one stops the machines. In the mills, rollers grind cane while fingers, arms, and whole hands are taken when someone moves too slowly. Outside, the overseer rides a horse with a whip in one hand and a pistol in the other. Dawn to dusk, the fields run, day after day, year after year. The average enslaved person lasts 8 years on a plantation, 8 years before disease, exhaustion, or the blade finishes them. Above them are the free people of color, tens of thousands of them, wealthy, educated, landowners, even slaveholders. But they're blocked from political rights, barred from power by whites who fear them more than anyone else. In the streets of Cap Franchise, free colored men are beaten for wearing fine clothes. In provincial towns, they're stopped from voting, stopped from serving in the militia, stopped from rising. They demand equality. Whites refuse. Meanwhile, white planters and poor whites, Grand Blancs and Petit Blancs, hate each other too. One side rich and arrogant, the other side bitter and jealous. Bar fights erupt over insults. Gunshots crack at night. The colony is a three-way powder keg, slaves versus whites, free coloreds versus whites, whites versus whites, with the richest sugar economy in the world sitting right on top of it. Every group thinks they're being cheated. Every group thinks disaster is coming. And every group is right. Now cut hard immediately without warning into the hills above the plantations. Deep in the woods under pounding rain, a secret meeting forms. Torches flicker. Hundreds of enslaved people slip from the forests and gather beneath towering trees. This is Bois Caiman, August 14, 1791, the spark of everything. Rain pours, thunder booms. A priest named Duddy Bouckman stands tall on a rock, scars across his chest, voice carrying like a drumbeat. Beside him, a priestess, Cecil Fadiman, slaughters a black pig. Its blood runs into the mud. She calls on the old spirits, the LWA, the gods of Africa carried in memory for generations. The crowd is silent except for the storm. Bouckman lifts his arms and speaks words the people remember for the rest of their lives. The God of the whites commands crime. Our gods call us to freedom. Throw away the image of the white man's God. Listen to the liberty that lives in your hearts. Lightning strikes. Shouts rise from the crowd. Machetes flash in the firelight. Men and women swear an oath to rise, to fight, to burn everything that chains them. The storm howls over the northern plain like the world itself answering them. For 1 week it's quiet. Plantation owners wake up, drink coffee, and tell themselves the slaves are restless but harmless. Free coloreds argue with whites about rights. Militia captains check their muskets. People whisper about the meeting in the woods, but no one believes what's coming. Then comes the night of August 21 to 22. It begins with small fires, faint glows on distant hills, then more fires, then dozens, then hundreds, torches in every direction. Slaves rise in perfect coordination across the north. No delay, no hesitation, they strike at the same time. Cane fields erupt like dry tinder. Smoke fills the sky. Big houses go up in flames. The northern plain, the engine of France's wealth, becomes a sea of fire. Armed bands sweep across plantations, freeing every slave they find. Overseers are cut down in their beds. Planters try to flee but are caught on the roads. Drums boom through the night, signals of where to move next. Some groups are led by former drivers, some by priests, some by men who have been planning since the moment they arrived in chains. As the fire spread, white refugees run toward Le Cap with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Survivors stumble into the city with stories of whole estates wiped out in minutes. Entire districts vanish under flame and machete. By the end of the first week, more than 1,000 whites are dead, 200 sugar works destroyed, and the richest colony on earth is collapsing like a building with its beams knocked out. The French colony of Saint-Domingue, worth more to Europe than all 13 American colonies combined, is now a war zone. A revolution has begun, not led by philosophers or politicians, but by enslaved men and women who have decided that life under chains is worse than death in flames. And the world will never be the same. France is tearing itself apart in 1792. Revolt, counter-revolt, purges, executions, chaos. Paris is shouting about liberty while drowning in blood. And every shockwave from France hits Saint-Domingue like an earthquake. The colony fractures instantly. Nobody is on the same side. Nobody trusts anyone. Everyone grabs guns, start with the whites. The Grand Blancs, big planters, want full control and maybe independence if Paris gets too radical. The petty Blancs, poor whites, hate the planters and hate free people of color even more. They form street gangs, militias, mobs screaming death to the colors, in towns across the north. Meanwhile, free people of color raise militias of their own. Men like André Rigaud in the south and Jean-Baptiste Chavannes earlier on. They are armed, organized, trained, furious, and demanding equality. They feel betrayed by both whites and Paris. They know they have to fight or lose everything. And then there are the black revolutionaries. Thousands of formerly enslaved soldiers commanded by rising leaders like Jean-François Papillon, Georges Biassou, and the legendary Vodou priest Bachman. After the August uprising, their forces swell into full armies. They raid plantations, seize towns, negotiate with Spain, and build real military camps. Bachman dies early, but Jean-François and Biassou grow into hardened generals. They write letters, form alliances, take prisoners, enforce discipline. This is no longer a mob, it's an army. And while all this is happening, a fourth force enters the field: white royalists. They hate the revolution in France, hate the Republic, and are ready to ally with anyone: Spain, Britain, even black rebels, if it helps restore the old order. The colony now has royalist whites, Republican whites, free-colored Republicans, free-colored separatists, black royalists aligned with Spain, black Republicans aligned with France, and enslaved people who don't care about ideology at all. They just want freedom. It's a battlefield with no clear front lines and no rules. To the east sits Spanish Santo Domingo. The Spanish crown sees opportunity. They hate revolutionary France and want the whole island for Spain. They send weapons, food, uniforms, and gold to Jean-François and Biassou. They promise rank and status if the black armies fight for the Spanish king. The two leaders accept. By early 1793, their soldiers wear red Spanish coats and fight under the Spanish flag. They become the Black Auxiliaries, elite units backed by a European power. Spain now has a private black army inside French territory. To the west, the British are watching too. London sees the richest colony on earth falling apart and wants to snatch it before France can stabilize anything. British agents arrive quietly in Jamaica, preparing an invasion fleet. They promise the white planters protection from both the slaves and the revolution. Many Grand Blancs agree, dreaming of British rule that keeps slavery intact. By 1793, 3 foreign powers and half a dozen local factions are fighting over the same small island. Picture it clearly: white militias fighting free-colored militias, free-colored armies fighting black Spanish auxiliaries, black revolutionaries fighting French troops, French commissioners fighting white royalists, British ships arriving offshore, Spanish troops slipping across the border, plantations burning, towns splitting by street and neighborhood. It's civil war layered on civil war layered on international war. No ideology stays clean. No alliance lasts. By mid-1793, the colony is shredded beyond recognition. Le Cap burns, Port-au-Prince riots, refugees flood the roads. French commanders write frantic letters to Paris saying they cannot hold the colony. And in the middle of this storm arrive the 2 French commissioners, Léger Félicité Sonthonax and Etienne Polverot. They have orders from Paris to restore order, protect the Republic, and somehow keep the colony French. It is impossible. They try half measures at first. They free some slaves who volunteer to fight for the Republic. They try negotiating with white planters, then with free-colored commanders, then with black rebels. Everything fails. The Spanish-backed black armies keep winning. The British fleet circles Jamaica waiting for the perfect moment to strike. French positions shrink day by day. Sonthonax watches the north collapsing around him and realizes France is about to lose the richest colony in the world. So on August 29, 1793, in the main square of Le Cap, he does something no European official has ever done. He abolishes slavery. Immediately, publicly, completely. He declares every enslaved person in the northern province free. Not later, not eventually, now. Thousands gather in the square, stunned at first, then shouting, crying, collapsing with joy. White planters are horrified. Free people of color are shocked. Black revolutionaries hesitate. Can France be trusted? But Sonthonax's gamble works. Former slaves start joining the French side. The Spanish can no longer claim to be the only path to freedom. The balance of power shifts. Months later, the news reaches Paris. After days of debate, the National Convention votes on February 4, 1794, to abolish slavery in all French colonies. The revolution in France becomes the first major government in world history to destroy slavery by law, all because a slave uprising forced it. The Haitian Revolution now transforms. It started as a slave revolt. It became a race war, then a civil war, then a colonial war. Now it becomes something even bigger, a political and military struggle to decide who will control a free black population and a collapsing empire. The battle for the island is no longer just about rebellion. It is now about power, nations, and the future of the entire Atlantic world. Start instantly in 1794. The entire balance of the war shifts in a single moment. Toussaint Louverture, formerly an officer under the Spanish, switches sides. He brings 4,000 hardened black soldiers, men who have fought non-stop since the uprising began. They march under the tricolor now, blue coats, bayonets fixed, discipline in every step. Overnight, France gains the best army in the colony. Overnight, the Spanish lose their most powerful allies. Overnight, Toussaint becomes the most important man in Saint-Domingue. And he moves fast. First, he turns on the Spanish. In early 1795, he smashes their frontier outposts, storming fort after fort along the northern border. Spanish commanders are stunned. These black battalions fight like European veterans, firing in volleys, advancing in lines, using cavalry flanking charges learned from years of brutal guerrilla war. Town after town falls. The Spanish are forced into peace talks within months. Toussaint wins his first major campaign. Then he wheels west toward the British. Britain has landed 20,000 troops along the coasts, confident the island will collapse into their hands. They capture ports, dig trenches, and expect the formerly enslaved population to welcome them. Instead, they get disease, ambushes, and Toussaint. Yellow fever hits the redcoats like a cannon blast. Thousands die in weeks. Toussaint watches their numbers shrink, then strikes. His columns hit British positions at night, attacking from the hills, rolling boulders down ravines, cutting supply lines. Christophe leads cavalry raids that slice through British camps before dawn. Dessalines storms fortifications head-on, guns blazing, taking positions no one else would attempt. Every British outpost becomes a coffin. By 1798, the once proud British army is desperate to leave. Their commanders sign a peace agreement and sail away, humiliated. Britain's attempt to take the colony collapses completely. With Spain defeated and Britain gone, Toussaint turns inward to the south, where the mixed-race generals, the free men of color, hold their own armies. The strongest of them is André Rigaud, a powerful leader in the south with soldiers disciplined almost as well as Toussaint's own. Rigaud doesn't want slavery back. He doesn't want French rule, but he doesn't want a black general ruling him either. Tension turns into open war. 1799, the War of the South. It becomes a brutal civil conflict. Dessalines leads the northern armies down the coast, burning plantations and routing Rigaud's troops. Christophe takes the western towns. Toussaint moves with precision, cutting off supply lines, isolating strongholds, forcing one surrender after another. Rigaud's troops fight hard, but they break under wave after wave of assaults. Rigaud flees to France. The South falls. For the first time ever, a black commander rules all of French Saint-Domingue. But Toussaint is not finished. In 1800, he marches east into Santo Domingo, the Spanish half of the island. Spain has already ceded it to France on paper, but the Spanish governor refuses to hand it over. Toussaint storms across the border with 20,000 men. Towns surrender instantly. The capital falls without a long fight. The Spanish governor is hanged. And for the first time in history, the entire island of Hispaniola, both colonies, is under one black ruler. Toussaint Louverture has gone from slave to general to continental governor in 6 years. Now he starts building a state. Plantations are destroyed, the economy in ruins, but Toussaint knows that if the island doesn't produce sugar, coffee, and exports again, everyone will starve and France will return in force. So he does something controversial but strategic. He forces labor back onto the plantations, not as slavery but as military-style compulsory work. Former slaves are now free, but they must work in regiments under officers for wages. Many hate it, but production begins creeping back. Villages stabilize, roads reopen, ports come alive again. Toussaint rebuilds cities, opens schools, reforms the justice system, invites sympathetic whites back under strict supervision, and writes decrees in a style that reads like a general speaking to the entire island. And then in 1801, he writes a constitution. It declares 3 things that shake the world. Slavery is abolished forever. The colony governs itself with wide autonomy. And Toussaint Louverture is Governor General for life. No election, no approval from Paris, total authority but under a banner of freedom. It is his masterpiece, half military, half political, fully revolutionary. But in Europe, another rising ruler reads this document, Napoleon Bonaparte. He has never met Toussaint. He has never seen Saint-Domingue, but he understands power. And he cannot tolerate the idea of a black general ruling France's richest colony freely. When aides hand Napoleon Toussaint's constitution, he slams it onto the table and growls, "I will not leave an epaulette on the shoulder of a single black." He decides instantly, the colony must be taken back, Toussaint must be removed, and slavery must return. He orders the largest colonial expedition in French history, more than 80 ships, tens of thousands of troops, commanded by his brother-in-law General Leclerc. Their mission is not simply to retake the island. It is to break Toussaint, break the black generals, break the revolution itself. As the French fleet gathers in the ports of Brest, Rochefort, and Lorient, sailors whisper that they have never seen so many ships ready for one mission. Toussaint, far across the ocean, hears rumors of the fleet. He senses the storm coming. He tells his officers, if the French come back, we will burn the colony to ashes before we serve them again. The greatest fight of his life is coming. And the greatest threat the Haitian Revolution will ever face is now sailing toward the island. The French fleet appears on the horizon in January 1802 like a floating city, masts packed so tight they blot the sunrise, drums rolling across the water as if announcing the return of an empire. Toussaint's generals stare from the cliffs, knowing instantly, Napoleon has come to crush the revolution. The French land with smiles and handshakes at first, offering peace, promising friendship, but the black officers know better. The war ignites immediately. Christophe, holding Cap Française, refuses to surrender the city. Instead, he orders a full burn. Flames rise dozens of feet high, warehouses explode, homes collapse in roaring fire, and civilians flee into the hills while black smoke rolls out to sea. French soldiers march into the ashes, stunned at the sight of a city destroyed just to deny them a foothold. Inland, Dessalines holds Créteil-Pirot, a stone fort perched above a narrow valley, and it becomes the beating heart of resistance. French columns swarm the hills, dragging cannon through mud, firing round after round into the walls. For weeks, cannon fire and musket volleys echo through the gorge. The defenders sing war songs between assaults, reload in clouds of stone dust, and fight with a kind of fury the French have never seen. At one point, Leclerc himself orders a full storming of the fort. Thousands of French soldiers charge uphill in tight formations, bayonets glinting, drums pounding. Dessalines' men fire point-blank, then countercharge with bayonets and machetes. The valley becomes a slaughterhouse. Bodies pile on the slopes. After 3 weeks, when supplies finally reach breaking point, Dessalines orders a night breakout. His men slip through French lines in total silence, leaving the fort behind like a ghost. The French march in at dawn expecting prisoners. They find only empty walls and the dead. Across the mountains, the war becomes savage. French patrols marching through narrow passes vanish in ambushes. Rocks rolled from cliffs, musket volleys crashing from behind trees, machetes flashing in the dust. Black cavalry units strike like lightning, hitting columns from the flanks, then disappearing into the forest. Villages suspected of hiding rebels are burned by the French. In retaliation, rebel units torch French-controlled towns. Both sides commit terror to break the other's will. Civilians run from one side only to be caught by the other. Rivers fill with corpses. Entire districts become wasteland. Napoleon's written orders are clear. Disarm the blacks, exile their leaders, and if resistance continues, destroy them to the last. The French begin rounding up civilians, drowning prisoners in ship holds, hanging officers under white flags. Rochambeau, one of the most brutal commanders, imports bloodhounds from Cuba and releases them on rebel camps. The war becomes a nightmare of fire, steel, and screams. In the middle of this horror, black officers face an impossible dilemma. Some, like Pétion and Clervaux, negotiate with Leclerc, hoping France might honor the abolition of slavery. Others, like Dessalines and Christophe, never trust the French. Toussaint, believing he can secure peace, surrenders under promise of safety, only to be seized at night, bound, and shipped to France, where he will die freezing in a mountain prison. His removal nearly breaks the revolution, nearly. But then the enemy begins to collapse from within. Yellow fever hits the French army in spring and summer like a biblical plague. Soldiers wake healthy and die by sunset. Camps turn into hospitals. Hospitals turn into graveyards. Bodies rot in the sun because there is no one left to bury them. Entire regiments vanish. Leclerc watches his army crumble. In letters to Napoleon, he admits the truth. I cannot save this colony. Only death surrounds us. In September 1802, he collapses from fever and dies, begging for winter to come. Rochambeau takes command and answers death with terror. His cruelty only fuels black resistance. Officers who once tried to work with France now see the truth. Napoleon means to restore slavery, chains, whips, and the plantation hell their people rose up to escape. Dessalines reunites the fractured black forces. Christophe joins him. Pétion and the mulatto generals return to the cause. A new united army is born, not the army of Spain or France or rival factions, but the army of Haiti. The revolution becomes a war of extermination, and the French cannot keep up. By mid-1803, Dessalines begins taking city after city. Guerrilla bands cut off French supplies. Fever kills more each day. Rochambeau writes Paris begging for reinforcements that will never come. And then comes the final battle, Verdières, November 18, 1803. The last French stronghold in the north stands atop ridges and fortifications, cannons positioned to sweep the field. Dessalines orders a full assault. The Black Army forms ranks under pouring rain. Drums beat. Christophe leads the first attack uphill, musket volleys lighting the slopes, French cannon tearing gaps in the lines. Soldiers fall by the dozens, then more rush to fill their place. A standard bearer is shot, another grabs the flag. A third is killed, a fourth lifts it again. The black columns close in under the smoke, bayonets fixed, shouting Liberté ou la mort, liberty or death. The French lines break. Rochambeau's officers surrender positions one after another. By afternoon, the tricolor is falling everywhere. Rochambeau himself sends a messenger to Dessalines begging for terms. He is told he may leave with what remains of his army, nothing more. The next morning, 8,000 sick, starving French troops march to the docks under Haitian guard and board ships to sail away forever. Napoleon's greatest expedition is annihilated. Out of 35,000 who came, barely a few thousand survived. France's empire in the Caribbean is dead. The Black Revolutionaries have defeated the most powerful army in the world. The war against Napoleon is over. Independence is now inevitable. The French ships slip away from the coast in late November 1803, sails torn, hulls rotted with fever, carrying the shattered remains of Napoleon's greatest expedition. Behind them, they leave a land in ruins but undefeated. Across the north, Haitian troops march through abandoned French camps, gathering artillery, food, and tattered banners as proof that the war is truly over. In the final weeks of the year, Dessalines tore the country, towns burned to ash, sugar works smashed to pieces, fields gone wild with weeds. Everywhere he goes, people rise from the hills and forests where they've been hiding, survivors of 14 years of fire and blood. They follow him as if following the only man who can speak the new world into existence. On January 1st, 1804, he enters Gonaives surrounded by generals who once fought each other, but now stand united under a single cause. A crowd gathers under the hot Caribbean sun, thousands packed into the square, waiting for the words they have dreamed of since the first flames rose on that August night in 1791. Dessalines steps forward holding the blue and red banner stitched together from old uniforms and battlefield scraps. Then slowly, he tears the white stripe from the French tricolor, ripping out the color of the masters who ruled this land for a century. He lifts the new flag high and declares, "We shall live independent or die." The crowd erupts, shouting, crying, pounding drums, knowing the world has just changed forever. He names the country Haiti, the ancient Taino word for mountainous land, wiping away the name Saint-Domingue, wiping away the memory of the colony that lived on broken backs. But the victory comes at a terrible cost. The island is burned raw. Roads are lined with the blackened skeletons of sugar mills. Plantations that once produced half of Europe's sugar lie silent. Entire towns are nothing but ash. 500,000 people, Africans, Creoles, whites, free coloreds, are dead from war, massacre, starvation, or disease. Families shattered, villages emptied, fields abandoned. The new nation is free but starving, victorious but isolated, proud but standing on ruins. And the world reacts with fear, not celebration. Every slave-holding empire sees Haiti as a nightmare made real. The United States refuses recognition. Britain treats Haiti with cautious distance. Spain seals its ports. And France, humiliated and enraged, begins what will become one of the greatest economic crimes in history, demanding an independence debt to compensate former slave owners for lost property, property meaning the enslaved people themselves. In 1825, under threat of invasion by a French war fleet, Haiti is forced to agree. The amount is so huge it will drain the country for generations, locking the new republic into poverty before it can even stand on its feet. Haiti is born free, but the world ensures it is born alone. Yet the revolution's meaning cannot be erased. It is the first successful slave uprising in recorded history to destroy a European empire, overthrow a racial caste system, and build a nation in its place. It creates the first free black republic on earth. It ends slavery not because a king grants it, not because a parliament votes for it, but because enslaved men and women rose up, fought for 13 years, and refused to stop until they won. That the greatest general of his age, Napoleon Bonaparte, can be defeated by men who were forbidden to read or write. That freedom once lit can burn down armies, plantations, and thrones. In the end, the Haitian Revolution is not just a Caribbean story. It is a world story, a turning point in human history. Between 1791 and 1804, the enslaved people of Saint-Domingue destroyed slavery, defeated Napoleon, and rewrote the rules of empire. They forced the world to confront the truth it did not want to face, that no system built on chains can last, and no people, no matter how brutalized, will accept bondage forever. Freedom, once awakened, spreads like fire, bright, unstoppable, and impossible to bury.